Right. Hi, welcome to my channel. Welcome to SolidWorks. I am going to teach you a bunch of shit. All right. So buckle up. This is the first menu of SolidWorks. You will get some variation of this. Usually, I like pinning this toolbar over there. And what the hell is going on? What is this? Why are we here? So let's start off from a few, let's say, wishes I have for this channel. I would like to eventually, help whoever is new to SolidWorks or struggling with whatever, improve their skills, improve their handling of SolidWorks. I am a mechanical engineer. I work with SolidWorks and SolidEdge, so I'll be able to give some professional insight as to what regarding best practices, more the mechanical engineer and manufacturing process attitude towards it. It's going to be a lot of technical drawings, because it's just a part of it. There's no way around it. It's going to be a lot of we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna figure out what the mistake was and how to avoid it in the future, which is all part of the process. Now, this video is probably titled New to SolidWorks, Start Here. So I think a lot of people would skip it, but hey, if you're new to SolidWorks, welcome. It's always good to learn. I hope to eventually have a series of increasingly harder parts and assemblies and stuff that you can slowly do and slowly follow along. So let's get to it. To those of you who are watching it and already know this, I apologize, but this has to happen at some point. So I usually skip this thing and I change to advanced. If you work as a mechanical engineer in a company that, did their homework, you have a bunch of templates here. And if you don't have nothing, you will start with a part. Yeah. All right, so you double click it or you go click OK. For you, it will probably be a bunch of part for this, part for that, part for development, part for series, or whatever your company is doing. And it changes from place to place, but the basic thing remains the same. Anyway, SolidWorks is a sequential program, meaning you do one thing, then usually you sketch, then you add material, and then you can also remove material from different parts. Let's give you an example. Extrude is to add material. You take a rectangle. We're not going to define it right now. We're going to say okay, and then we're going to say you're going to be in the middle, you're going to be 10 millimeters thick. You added material, and this, and as you go and do a bunch of stuff, you will have what they call a tree here, and some of the really crazy parts have 20, 30. I've seen parts with 50 features, and there's a lot of also variation. So this is the tree, and this is how I have my workspace set up. Sketch, I like having this is this is how I learned to use it, although now I scroll through the top, the command manager. I see a lot of people at work doing this, not using the large buttons. Whatever floats your boat. I wear glasses and I need to see better, so I use the big things. Yeah, sketch is important. Motion manager is not. You can have features here, although I wouldn't say it's mega important. And the important thing is to know how to set up your workspace, so that when you see you need something, like, I don't know, your company is doing a lot of, let's say, sheet metal, so bring it in, like, oh, sheet for sheet. And yeah, so you have this. And I usually don't like having double lines on the sides. Like one line is all I want. And a plane, I hope you know what a plane is. If you don't, I think you should start somewhere more basic. A sketch. Let's start with a sketch. You pick a plane. In the beginning, I remember when I was studying, I had a few courses for SolidWorks. I was like, who cares about what plane it is? I would just pick whatever and do whatever. And at some point it clicked and I was like, oh, if I have the isometric view here and I sketch on this plane and I have this and it extrudes longitudinally here, like to the Z axis, it will look like this, and the orientation in the assembly will be like that. And you know, right now you don't need to care so much, but you pick a plane, you go to your sketch thing and you tell it, let's say here on the top plane. Then if you're using the command manager, you can go here to sketch, or you can go to any one of those things. And then you basically start to do 2D sketch. SolidWorks is kind of a dumb program, and you have to tell it things in 2 dimensions. So you can go to a rectangle. This is a center rectangle where you pick the center, then you place the rectangle, and then you can hit the smart dimension and place dimensions. Now, when you place a dimension, when you click a line, it will like, you place the dimension, then you can tell it you are 200 now, and you can tell this one you are 100. We have a rectangle. These are construction lines, so lines that don't perimeter and geometry. They are there just to help us. This thing, like, there are a lot of these green things. These are relations between sketch elements. And just so you know, we will probably talk about it a lot later. Like, we will talk about it later a lot. So let's say I have this rectangle, it's 200 by 100, and I close the sketch. Now, if you first pick a feature and then start sketching, when you close the sketch, it will automatically go to that feature after you are done with your sketch. I didn't, but it's okay. You can do this. If you did a sketch and you didn't pick a feature to use the sketch beforehand, you will have to tell it. You will have to tell SolidWorks, oh, like, SolidWorks will be like, what do you want me to do? Like, where do I put this thing? Then you can open this little thing. This opens the tree that we just had. Or bet you never knew this, someone who says I didn't need to watch this video. And you have this thing here. Like, if it's all the way here, you can't really see it, so you have to know it's there. Bam! You click this thing, you can pick it. Then I didn't pick it. So if you go, I don't select anything, then you click extrude, you can click here, and then it takes the sketch and it becomes our volume. So from a 2D area, we are becoming a volume. Now, lots of things. What is going on? You have you can pick an offset, which will mean it will be parallel to the plane, but with an offset. You can also change the direction of the offset. You can start from a vertex, which is a dot, and so on. Usually you start from sketch plane. If you need to take an offset, I would say you only need an offset on, like, circular faces, or if you didn't do reference geometry. Anyway, then direction 1 means the direction in which we are extruding. You can also take direction 2, or if you're a bit smarter, you do mid-plane, which means it goes in both directions to the thickness you choose. I don't know why, but when you click up and down, it goes up by 10. I know you can change it in the options, but whatever. I anyway type on the keyboard like 155 or whatever. Let's say 200. And you can click draft. Drafting means you have an angle at which each of the faces is angled at. You angle at an angle, yeah. So yeah, it does this. Sometimes it's useful. As a mechanical engineer, it's mostly useful when you're doing like mold injections and things like that. Usually when you are CNCing parts, things are straight. You can do a thin feature, which means the lines of your sketch have a thin layer of material, either towards the inside or the outside, at a thickness you decide. Usually it will be a thin layer of material. Otherwise you would sketch this differently. Anyway, so you click OK, you get your volume. The sketch usually should get eaten by the feature. It still lives there, but like this is closed, it's collapsed. You can edit the sketch. You click once, not on the text, because then it goes to edit and you're like, oh, click. Anyway, you can decide to show it all the time, or if you got a part that is very old and like it was created on, let's say, SolidWorks 2012, and this is the first time someone opens it after, 5, 8, 10, 20 years, whatever, and you're gonna see some weird things. So you can hide it. And here you can also edit the feature. You can edit the sketch straight from here. Like you can edit the sketch. I usually go here just out of habit, but yeah. You can also edit where, like which plane which plane the sketch lives on. So you can go here. It is right now on the top plane, and now you move it to the front plane. What happens? Boom. Now with this thing, it's relatively simple. No, it's a very simple geometry. And with more complex things, this is usually followed by a lot of repairing a sketch, just so you know. You can suppress things, and you can also reach this thing with a right click, but usually it's just a click. And you can suppress, which means it is momentarily not active. And yeah, then so you have your volume. You can now do things like remove material. Let's take a circle. I placed, let's go back one thing. I pick this face, I choose sketch, I go to a circle, I place it, I place the center, then I place where, I give it some size, and then I go here, I press and the smart dimension, and I give it, let's say 30 millimeters of the diameter. Then I close the sketch, and what do we want to do? We want to cut. Let's cut in the middle. Now, this is the same as extrude, except instead of adding material, you're taking it away. But same thing. Usually using through all because it's easier, but you can use blind if you, let's say this block needs to fit I don't know, another part in it, like You go here, there's a hole, and here comes some kind of I don't know, a pole, a shaft, an axle, whatever. So you have your box with a hole. You can later decide, like, you want to revise something. Oh, it's not supposed to be 50, it's 60 because the length of the pole is too long and it's colliding with something. And again, you can also do up to surface, for example. You go here, you choose the surface, boom. Then it's up to the end. And then why is this good? Let's exemplify. And if I take this sketch and I go like, okay, this block needs to be 250. I edit the sketch, I come here. Oh, look at that. Look at that, so beautiful. And now if I define this as, let's say I define it as blind, then I give it 120. And then later on, I find out that this, sorry, no, it's on the sketch. It doesn't need to be 250 tall, it needs to be 140. Then this thing is still 120, no matter what. And so now it is 120 deep, and now we want to change this again. Let's say it needs to be 80. Now it's going through. The next change you're gonna have, and listen, I don't know what you've been told in drawing class or 3D course or whatever, but parts sometimes get changed 100 times before they go into production. So when you start designing something, when you start with a sketch, when you're like sketching this thing, you are already thinking about how it's behaving in the assembly. Because if this design is not robust, and we will talk later about what is a robust design, what is not. This is a robust design. A change that has to do with 20 parts, 10 parts, several parts, and can be disastrous, and 20 minutes of work and mates and a bunch of other shit. Or it can be like a change one dimension and everything falls into place. It's beautiful when it happens, but you know, you need to collect some experience before it happens. So if you know this hole needs to be through the thing all the time, you define it as up to the surface, and then it will always be through the whole part no matter what. Like you can come here, you can tell it it's 1000 now, and it is still through. All right, you understand, you're an intelligent person. I don't need to habit over this all the time. So and we have this, whatever this is, it's a nothing, and you can add a lot of things. I don't know, we're already 18 minutes in. I think I will leave it at that. But whatever you want to do, like your basic sketch, it can be whatever you want. Like it can be a rectangle. You have hexagons that you can use. They call it polygons, actually, because you can tell it it's 4, it's 5, 6, it's 12. It's a 12-agon, and you can define each of these shapes however you want. Where are we selecting in lasso? I don't like selecting in lasso. Box connection, good. And you can have a rectangle, as we saw. And here you can have, there are slots you can use, like you define, first click is one of the radii, another click is the length of the slot, and then the width or radius at the end, whichever way you want to look at it. And another super important thing I haven't said, we are only using fully defined sketches. This is a habit you are going to get into. If you have an underdefined or an overdefined sketch, you have to get it to be fully defined, period. That's it. Easy. What is a fully defined sketch? A fully defined sketch is a sketch that cannot be changed by dragging, or vice versa. A sketch where all the 2D dimensions are defined. So if I have a circle here, I can do this. I can change the diameter or radius, whatever you want. I can change where the center is. And you may have noticed this little thing. It's called the origin. It is very important. This is where all the planes intersect. So I have this thing. Let's say I tell it with the smart dimension. I tell it is 20 millimeters in diameter. Now, it is still free in space. As you can see, I cannot change its diameter anymore, but it's free in space. And then you can do a few things. Usually if it's the first sketch, you drop it onto the origin and everything becomes black. You're happy. Here at the bottom you can see, I see under my face. Move myself a bit. You can see here, this says fully defined. Oop. And fully defined is the criteria under which you are allowed to close a sketch. And that's not to say you're not allowed to make volumes with underdefined sketches, but just get used to fully defining sketches and everything will be super easy. Or at least it will not be excessively hard. Now, another option, basically you need some kind of relation to the origin, either by telling the center of this, specifically it's the circle, rectangles behave differently and so on. Each of your lines needs to be fully defined. And you can tell it the vertical distance and the horizontal distance, and it will be fully defined. Black, good. Blue, not good yet. Okay, I'm going in there. Black lines matter. Huh? Another thing you can do is put relations. You can select this point, you hold Control and you select the origin point. You can tell it they are horizontal and it jumped. You can look at it again. There. Good. Now you can also do vertical, and then it's the same as telling it is coincident, which is better because less relations. And later on, very later on, we will look into relations and mates and stuff like that. But for now, I think this is enough. And why do you have a warning? Because, yeah, okay. This doesn't have where to live anymore. Anyway, oh, look, here's a shaft. Or a stick, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, each element, each sketch element that you have to fully define, which in the same breath, I'm gonna say that splines are a nightmare, and the exception to this, probably. If you want a polygon that has 6, so a hexagon, you can tell this line you are now vertical. You can tell it that, let's say it is 50 millimeters away. No, 50 is too much. Let's say 14. You are away from that. And then you go back. You tell it, oh, you are 10 millimeters thick. Then you take and extrude. You put it, throw it there. You tell it to write a circle. You dimension the circle. You tell it you are now 24 millimeters in diameter, and you are, no, not 24, doesn't look good, and let's say 18. Then you exit the sketch, and it is sad because you got out of the extrude. You click extrude, you tell it you are 25 millimeters long. Nah, 50 looked better. And then you have a screw. Boom. Well, a bolt minus the threading, but also this is not a standard bolt. Anyway, you get the idea. You have a thing that you can, you know, if you're new to SolidWorks, bam, you made a part that looks sort of realistic. And in that, on that note, I have to say, like, this should, all the dimensions here are probably wrong, and we will have to get the correct dimensions. But all of this and more for the next episode, or I don't know if it's an episode, next video. And what do I want to close with? I want to close with, if no one comments and participates in like what they want to know, what I want to hear, I'm going to follow my own thought or program or how I see this thing. But if anyone wants to comment and say like, hey, how about you talk about this or you talk about that, I will be more than happy to. So yeah, you know, just like in kindergarten, if you participate, you will get more points. Yeah, see you later.